We're seeing people being denied the opportunity to vote because of administration issues, basically incompetence from the side of the Electoral Commission of Namibia. It's not a coincidence that the Secretary General of Zanu PF is in the country. It is not a coincidence that members of the SWAPO party were wearing Zanu PF t-shirts last weekend, right before elections. Yes. And then this happens. Very simple Zanu PF tactics out of the textbook.
Okay, William, Minnie, thank you so much for coming again on Africa Speak. So, with the whole thing that's actually happening with the election and actually in Namibia, and with all the changes and all the chaos that actually happening. So, how are you actually? Again, how is everything?
Well, hi, Elizabeth. Always good speaking to you, always. You see, Elizabeth, we've never seen this happening in our country ever before in the history of our country's elections.
Yeah.
We've never seen this. So when we were preparing and saying that this is the second most important election after our elections in terms of transitioning from apartheid into our independent government, this is the second most important election. And based on the events happening, it seems like it's actually true. We were thinking that, of course, it's just the winds of change.
Yeah.
But this time, the climate is much different. We're seeing ballot paper shortages. We're seeing funny tenders in terms of procuring the ballot papers. Probably about a month or two ago, we're seeing people being denied the opportunity to vote because of administration issues, basically incompetence from the side of the Electoral Commission of Namibia. So from the side of political parties, this has been an extensively taxing election process. We thought that it would go smoothly, but unfortunately, we are seeing Zanu PF tactics from the textbook. We know that if stuff like this happen, it's not a coincidence that the Secretary General of Zanu PF is in the country. It is not a coincidence that members of the SWAPO party were wearing Zanu PF t-shirts last weekend, right before elections. Yes. And then this happens. Very simple Zanu PF tactics out of the textbook. So as defenders of our country's democracy, who believe in the constitution of this country, we're not going to allow nonsense like this to happen. There's no way that as political parties, and people can think that because we're opposition political parties that we're just making noise. It's not noise. It is standing by and defending the central tenets of democracy. And if people are not allowed to vote because of whatever reason, we're going to oppose.
Okay, so with the issue of the Zanu PF, do you think that Zanu PF is actually the one that kind of influencing this year's election? Like, and how are they actually even involved?
You see, Elizabeth, it's quite clear. It's very clear. There's no pussyfooting happening here. We shouldn't. It's very clear. If you look at stuff like, if you look at the reports in terms of how Zanu PF elections go, there's always ballot paper shortages in Bulawayo, stuff like that. Voting has extended. You can just see the pattern. We've never had this before in our country. We've never had this thing of ballot papers shorting. We do understand that this is the first time after 10 years that we're using ballot papers again. We had the EVMs, but of course we don't trust the EVMs. And then I do remember that opposition parties did take the issue to court, and then now we're back at ballot papers, but I trust the ballot paper system more. However, when it becomes a thing of ballot paper shortages, the tablets are overheating, verification is a problem, it starts to make us wonder, and then people don't have the opportunity to vote anymore. And if you see the outcry on social media in terms of how many people have not been able to vote. I was in Klein Banduk Spa yesterday, and all the ladies told me they weren't able to vote. And I told them polling stations are still open, and then they were quite happy. But of course, it's a very serious issue. It shouldn't come to the point where people should be happy that polling stations are still open and they can actually still vote a day after. It should never come to that. If according to the act, if one day is provided, provision is made for one day starting 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. Provision is made for voting. It's a public holiday. And we have more than enough ballot papers printed, then we shouldn't have these problems. If there are 400 people living in an area like Gibeon, then 400 ballot papers shouldn't be taken there. You should take more. There's absolutely no way how stuff like this can happen. This is it's not maladministration, it's not incompetence, it's deliberate, and we can see that.
Really?
It's quite deliberate. We can see the tactics, and we totally condone. We condemn these things, because why on earth the SADC, even the SADC observer mission, even SADC itself, I've come to the point where I question the organ, because if the stuff that are happening in Mozambique,
Yeah.
we look at the stuff that was happening in Eswatini,
Yeah.
and they turned a blind eye, and we know who is chairing SADC also. So it comes as no surprise that stuff like this is happening. But unfortunately, we are a very woke generation. There's no way that you can come and full us. This is not 1996.
I see. And then now with the issue, like with the issue of like yesterday with the EC and now, and okay, let me ask this question, because now with the especially the people in the diasporas,
Yes.
they are very much disappointed on how come like we are 1.4 people that actually registered for voting, and this is, like you said, is actually happening for the first time. People, those 1.4 people were not able to actually finish voting in one day actually. So how is actually this now, like the opposition party saying this is actually deliberate and this is actually castrated by the main,
It is orchestrated
by SWAPO. So how is this SWAPO going actually to benefit them, and how do you think are they involved, especially with the whole setup?
If ECN declares, of course, with permission from the acting president, permission to say that
Acting president?
yes, with the acting president, the interim chairperson of Namibia. If he says, and he has amended the proclamation, and it's not constitutional. In fact, it can't be done like that. There's no way. But of course, the looters have done it.
Yeah.
And if you look at the polling stations that will be open, it makes one question. If there's one thing that I've been wondering since last night, is why only those areas? If people in Erongo weren't able to completely vote, if people in Harda were not able to completely vote, if people in Karas region were not able to vote.
So there are no polling stations in those areas?
There are no polling stations open in those areas. So one must ask, why is it that it is like that in only certain strongholds of one particular former liberation movement? These are the questions that we need to ask.
So what you're saying is that currently the polling stations that are open is only in regions where SWAPO actually has a major, like,
Yes,
has
that is what we are saying.
majority supporters,
Yes, that is
like
what we are saying.
Usati or Angona region.
This morning, Friday the 29th, I issued a statement, a press statement from the Youth Command. And I said that there's no way that we can play with the Namibian citizens' democracy like that. We can't. How does ECN decide which polling stations need to be open? Based on which assessment? Based on what assessment? If people in the Omaeke region are crying out and saying we were not able to vote, if people in Windhoek Rural are crying out to say that they were not able to vote, then how are we going to ensure that how are we going to ensure that everyone is going to vote? If I live in Groot Op and I was not able to cast my vote on the 27th of November, does that mean that I must come from Groot Op to come vote here at Transnamib in Windhoek?
So there's only one polling station
Yes.
for Commerce region.
Yes.
So which means it's kind of like something that is actually done deliberately. And
Yes.
with the extension of the dates now, 2 days that are added, which is actually today, and then on that day, the 29th and the 30th of November, actually. And now people coming out, that is actually not, and that is not actually part, it's procedural actually. Yes. So how, like, what is actually also your take on that?
My take on it is, and I'll call it a churchy interpretation of the law. Yes, a churchy interpretation of the law. Because you can't do that. You can't amend a proclamation. Look, the president only sets the date, but the date is one day.
Yeah.
That is what is provided for. It's supposed to be one day of voting. That day is declared a public holiday. Yeah. Even the hours are already stipulated. So there's no way that you can amend the proclamation. What we suggested as the Landless People's Movement the other day in our press conference is, we said extend the hours. Keep the polling stations open, but do not declare Friday, Saturday are also voting days. No, 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 no. If there are polling stations and there are people who did not vote, extend the hour. Keep the polling stations open, but do not declare 2 extra days as voting days. Voting day is 1 day in the Republic of Namibia, one particular day in November.
So that now the polling station could have been extended from
Extend the hours.
because we're supposed to close at 9 p.m.
Yes.
So they would have been extended up until even 3
Extend the
p.m.
hours.
3 a.m.
Yes. The other day we said extend until Thursday 2 p.m. The NEFF said extend until Thursday 5 p.m. What we said is the extension of the hour. Do not say you are extending the voting day. That does not make sense. And it is constitutionally unlawful.
Interesting. And also now, with the ECN and the opposition party saying that ECN is actually also under the ruling party and is not working independently as well. So how is that? Because ECN, in my knowledge, ECN is like an independent body.
Supposed to be. Yes.
But it's not currently.
Look, colleagues, a few months ago, you saw the president called in the delegation from the ECN, and you saw the Secretary General of the SWAPO party there, which in itself is also questionable. Why is the Secretary General of SWAPO there? And if she's there in her capacity as a member of parliament, why were the other members of parliament not there also? Why did the ECN not meet with the entire National Assembly then? Yesterday, there was a meeting that was organized between the political parties and ECN. The chairperson called the meeting for 12 o'clock. The chairperson did not show up. And while the opposition political parties are waiting in downstairs, the Secretary General of the SWAPO party came up and walked up. Okay, she came in and walked up, which is where the altercation, the verbal altercation broke out between the opposition political parties and the Secretary General of the SWAPO party, because they were questioning why is it that Sophia Shaningwa can come and walk up as if she owns the place. So it's stuff like that. You look at stuff like behavior. It doesn't always have to be said with the mouth. You look at behavior. Because why is it that the Secretary General of the SWAPO party is so comfortable at the ECN as if it's one of the branches of the SWAPO party?
Yeah, and now with the election now being extended, the election dates being extended, and then people still saying that actually these elections must be null and void. And so, do you think like now people being given the extension, is it possible? Like, will you guys still kind of accept the results of the election outcome, or will you still it's still not fair and free election?
Look, Elizabeth, at this point, these elections are not fair and fair already. And we are not stupid. So we have analyzed the situation, and currently, as we are speaking, the principals of the opposition parties have met. Yesterday, we debriefed the principals of the political parties, the opposition political parties at the in the ECN boardroom. We used their boardroom because ECN belongs to us also, because we are stakeholders. We debriefed our political parties as leaders, and the principals indicated that they will meet today on Friday. Currently, the principals are meeting to provide a directive. And if a joint directive comes out to say that this is the route that we are going to follow, whichever route that is, however that route, of course, because these are mature individuals who are meeting and putting their political parties as ideologies aside to say the only ideology that we recognize now is the Namibian people and the Namibian nation. So if the principles of the political party say this is the route that we are going to take in terms of defending and standing by the central tenets of our democracy, then that is the route that we are going to take. If it comes to urgent applications, then that is the route that we are going to take. If it comes to writing to the ECN to nullify, then that is the route that we are going to take. But what we know now at this current juncture is that, Elizabeth, there is no way that we can say these elections are free and fair if they were Namibians who did not cast their vote due to the incompetence of the ECN. If a person does not get up, if the person does not cast their vote because they did not get up and go to the polling station, then that is that person's fault. But if a person gets up and stands in a line to cast their vote in line with their constitutional right, and the ECN fails, then an election is not free and fair, because then people were denied the opportunity to vote. and there is no way that you can deny someone their basic human right. A voting is a basic human right.
Yeah, that's actually very true. And just my last question, I think, before I actually let you go, with the result that has already been released,
Yes.
how is actually the LPM doing? And you see the LPM actually also trying to snatch more seats on parliament, and like is there progress from the last election to this election as well?
We've been analyzing. We do have a collation center as the LPM, an undisclosed location where our people are busy collecting the data as it's coming in and calculating. I can say that the seats are increasing based on our analysis, because they are counting by the minute as it comes in. Of course, you tally the total votes every time that they come in, and then you analyze how many votes the party got in terms of National Assembly. And it looks like the seats are increasing. Of course, we do not trust this process, because there are a lot of irregularities, as well as a lot of people did not vote. However, I'm quite proud of the LPM party, who was founded only a few years ago. And our first election that we took part in was in 2019. So 2019, first election that we took part in, and we received for 4 seats in the National Assembly, 6 seats in the National Council. We have more than 40 local authority councillors. We have 2 regional chairpersons, the Hardam and the Karas region. And we have many councillors, and it's doing quite well. Our stance has always been clear. People have been campaigning and using propaganda, decampaigning us and using propaganda to say that this is a Nama party. But if you even look at the top 10 of our parliamentary list, very diverse group of people from all walks of life, different cultures. We have always been inclusive as a party. We have people from the northern regions, we have people from the southern regions, we have people from the eastern region, we have people from the western region. We have made sure that every person is going to be represented. Because the foundation of this party was landlessness. And we believe that land in itself is a human right. Because we can feel the socio-economic effects of not having land. And I use the analogy to say, you can take Elizabeth, who is, let's say, a native Namibian, and you can take Yani, who is the descendant of those who colonized us. And they are both sitting in grade 1. If Yani goes home, if the school comes out, Yani is picked up by a Land Cruiser V6, and they are driving back to their commercial farm. Yani most probably already has 50 cattle. And when Elizabeth walks home very far, and when she does have lunch, it's perhaps pap or whatever that there is, and the only animal that she owns is a skinny dog. We still feel the effects of apartheid and colonialism, as well as genocide. We were deprived of our land, and these errors were never rectified the hours following independence, and they were supposed to be rectified, but they weren't. If you look at certain areas in our country, you see there's something called ancestral land, and we don't even have a say over our ancestral land. And it's very incorrect, because it places us very low socioeconomically, very, very, very low. So it has always been a very fundamental part of our party's ideology, policies, because we do believe that if you're a native Namibian, you're supposed to have land. You're supposed to, but a large percentage of the commercial farms here, etc., are owned by foreign people. And it's quite sad that our native people are disadvantaged like this, and they have to look for grants and look for sponsorship and do this and do that. And it's quite sad. I always say, look at the people in Patani, the Frederick Royal House. We do know that under which conditions Lutherans became Lutherans. And it was ancestrally, it belongs to the people who live in Patani now. Those people who live in poverty now belongs to them. If we go back to our history books, those who did history, if we look at our history books, you can see, and it's explained there. Adolf Lutherans bought the land, but the measurements were incorrect. the measurements, according to the German people, were stretched further than what it was supposed to be. And Lutherits is Lutherits today. And unfortunately, the descendants of the rightful owners can't even benefit from the green hydrogen and so on that's happening there. So, it's a very sad thing. But of course, the party is fighting to be in government to rectify issues like these. And there are a multitude of things that we also address, especially in our manifesto. Our ideology is very strong. Our policies are very strong. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I know I said the last question, but something just came to mind actually. So, and I say your relationship with LPM and NEF, they are kind of like very strong. Currently at the moment, I'm not sure what we're actually seeing outside. So when you guys housed Amushelelo, did you guys knew that Amushelelo is just there for a moment and he's going to go back to the party? Did you know his plan actually before he actually came to the party? Or you actually just you guys thought that he just joined the party, or how was it? How was the agreement?
The young man approached the party and indicated his interest to join the party.
Yeah.
And of course, there were extensive talks between him and the leadership of the party. And we welcomed him as a member, and we treated him as a member, just like everyone else. What we heard the day of his press conference when he left was quite shocking. It was extremely shocking because, according to our understanding, he came to the table. He came to our table and he said, "Colleagues, I want to join the party."
Yeah.
But of course, without going into any detail, we know the reasons behind him leaving. But as the LPM party, we are not going to bash anyone.
Yeah.
It's fine. The young man decided to go back to the NEFF, which is fine. At the end of the day, colleagues, as opposition parties, we are fighting one corrupt institution. And that is what we are going to do. And currently, the political climate has called upon us to stand united as opposition parties. And with everything that's happening, the opposition is united to ensure that the elections are indeed free and fair. And if whatever is continuing is not rectified, we are going to take alternative measures together as the united political parties on instruction of the principles of the opposition political parties.
Okay, interesting. Thank you so much, William Minnie. Unless you have anything else that you want to mention before I actually let you go.
Oh no, always lovely speaking to you.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.